Hey there, it's Andrea. Welcome to the Voice of Influence podcast. Today I have with me Roger Allmand. Roger worked in his family business, Allmand Brothers, Inc., from the early 1960s, working on the metal lab floor, then sales and marketing, and eventually managing the company. And during this time, Roger thrived on being an encourager to the more than 200 employees working at Allmand Brothers until they sold the company to Briggs & Stratton in 2014. After the sale of Allmand Brothers, Roger and his wife Marlis formed Legacy Purpose LLC. In this venture, they support entrepreneurs, various ministries, and individuals to realize a life of purpose and value. Roger, did we get it right?
I think you just wrote my obituary. That sounds awesome.
uh
I
yeah.
think that sounds good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I know that on your business card now, we're going to start with now and work our way back, by the way.
Okay.
Your title is Encourager Apprentice.
Right.
So, what is an Encourager Apprentice?
Well, when we first started this, my business card said that I was an encourager. And after a while, I thought maybe that sounded a bit presumptuous. So I changed it to I'm an encourager apprentice, meaning I'm trying to learn how to be a good encourager. And sometimes that's just a smile. Sometimes it's a kind word. Sometimes it's just showing up. Sometimes it's holding a chair for somebody. It's just, being the kind of person that most of us would want to be around. So I'm trying to learn how to do that.
Hmm. I think that there's probably quite a few people who would be would be amused at the apprentice part of that, because you every time I see you, and we're from the same hometown. I'm from the hometown that you're in Holdridge, where your business was, and you're still located.
Right.
And every time I see you, that is exactly what you do. You get right into it and you encourage pretty quickly.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think I'm in kindergarten, maybe into first grade on that process, but hopefully a little progress there.
um, so you're from Holdridge. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? Like how long have you been in Holdridge? And yeah, let's just start there.
Okay. Well, actually, I was born in Huntley, which is a really little town, and we moved to Holdridge when I was 6, and I was pretty excited about that because Holdridge had sidewalks. Huntley did not have sidewalks, and I had a little tricycle, but it was really hard to ride in the dirt. So we got to Holdridge, I could go fast, sidewalks. So we were excited about that. So anyway, I've been here ever since I was 6 years old, and enjoy the community, enjoy what it stands for, and enjoy who and what it's trying to become, and hopefully can continue to encourage that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And your family had a business. Can you tell us a
Yes.
little bit about Allmand Brothers? And I'm really curious, especially since it went from your family started the business, your family sold the business. It's it spanned a couple generations, 3 generations, I believe ish. How would you put that?
Yeah, 3. I'd I could stretch it into 4 pretty
Sure,
easily.
sure. So, well, how did that business even get started? And yeah, let's start there.
Well, my dad and his brother had a small garage repair shop and so forth, and they actually built their own welder. They couldn't afford to buy a welder, electric welder, so they built their own welder. And one of their customers said, "Why don't you sell me that and build yourself another one?" And the timing was good. This is when the rural area was becoming electrified, so the timing was very well there, very timely, and moved to Holdridge because we were this really big company now with probably 5 employees or something. Actually, the Holdridge Chamber of Commerce, I believe, provided a building with no rent for the first year. So that was maybe one of the early development. What is it? Oh, I can't
Business
think of.
development, community development.
Yeah, that kind of a thing. So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's I have to say that in and of itself is such an important thing to notice, because that did a lot for the community. That one, recruiting the business to come and
yeah,
providing something that there was a lot of foresight there.
yeah, I agree. And that speaks to the community, of course. In fact, one of the thinking of the community, one of the things, the story that my dad used to tell that he was so proud of, and I suppose this was in the, I don't know, 30s, 40s, 50s, something like that. He was so proud that Holdridge had built a new water tower without raising taxes. They had anticipated that need, and for a period of time, they developed a way of financing that. And I think that's a little bit different than we think of today. We think, oh, we need to raise the taxes if we're going to do anything different. So Holdridge has been really good to us, to our kids, to our families, and still is. And we just continue to enjoy and hopefully be a positive effect on the community.
Yeah. Well, I've been wanting to have you on the show for a while, and um, you have a lot of wisdom when it comes to your experience in business, but you also really care about people and helping people find their purpose and that sort of thing. You even wrote a book, your book, Good Stuff. This
Right.
is fun. This is very fun. So it's like basically a compilation of hard-earned wisdom and insight that you've had, or quotes or beliefs that you have that you put together. And I'm curious, how did you decide to even do that? Like, why did you decide to do that?
Well, first of all, regarding the book, Andrea, you can see I wrote it especially for you. See what it says under stuff?
Compiled for intelligent people.
That's you. Well, that's who I wrote it for. No, I just have always enjoyed positive thoughts, good thoughts, helpful thoughts. And over the years, I've kind of collected a collection of those. And long story short, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I have a great lady that works with us and is very, very capable. And we started, how about categorizing these, putting in some kind of order. She was very helpful doing that. And before long, we had 150 pages or so. And I'm thinking, good grief. So then we decided, well, maybe there's something here that would benefit some other people. Let's put it in a little bit of a book, which we did. And we've just now printed the third edition of that. We continue to add a little bit time to time, a new thought or idea or whatever, but it's really been fun. And it's just ideas that, and I like ideas and thoughts, particularly ideas and thoughts that seem to be helpful or positive or encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of the motivation of doing this. And it's been fun. We sell one for every 100 that we give away. And so, but it is just fun. And it hopefully tells a story that there's something in there of value to people. And appreciate your comments regarding that, Andrea.
Well, that is part of what you talk about at the beginning, is that
Great.
you really care about and believe that how we think matters.
Yes. If you never think about anything, you never know what's up. And if you don't know what's up, life isn't very much fun.
Life isn't very much what?
Fun.
Oh, yeah.
No fun if you don't know what's up. You're in the dark all the time.
Fair.
So I rambled a bit. Go ahead.
Have you ever noticed kind of a difference between people who do think, maybe put some thought into things, versus people that maybe you think aren't necessarily thinking as much? What are your observations?
Well, a good observation, a good example of that would be a young lady that we have met with a few times. can't decide whether she should stay in Holdridge or move to a state far away with her parents. And she's going through that. In fact, she went down there once and came back and blah, blah, blah. So what she really needs and what all of us need, I think, is a purpose. If you have a purpose, if you know where you want to go and who you want to be, decisions become much easier. If you don't have much of a purpose or direction or any goals, not much happens. And so I think purpose is extremely important. In fact, in our company, our purpose statement went something like our purpose is to serve our stakeholders, excellence, integrity, and respect. And in the spirit of God's love, we will be authentic with one another. And we identified 4 different stakeholder groups for our company. And that would be our customers, certainly, our employees, certainly, our community, the owners of the company. And I think that's only 4. There's one more. But we tried to make decisions based on how do we serve those stakeholder groups. To me, a stakeholder group is anybody that is blessed or not so much, given the success of the company. So if you're only in there to serve the owners, take all the money you can out of it, that may be a short-lived company. But if you're there to serve the stakeholders, everyone that is affected by the success or lack thereof of your business or your family or whatever, I think it becomes much more meaningful and much more positive and certainly a whole lot more fun. I realize I'm just rambling here. Where do you want me to go now?
No, you're not rambling. I think that's a really interesting thought, because it's not, I think what you're kind of saying, maybe I feel like I can connect it back to also just an individual sense of purpose. Who are the people in your life that matter to you? Yeah. Who do you want to impact? What are your thoughts on how a person can find their purpose? That feels really daunting to some people.
Well, it does. And I don't know that I've got a good answer for that. I go back to what we did and why. In fact, one thing that might kind of relate here, Marlis and I, being grandparents and having some grandchildren, we did a really fun thing with our grandchildren about the time they were becoming old enough to drive.
I love this.
Okay. So we told them and their parents that we would provide so many dollars towards a car if and when their parents thought that was appropriate. And it was not a gift. They had to earn those dollars. The way they earned the dollars was meeting with us. We'd discuss a book, we'd read a book, we'd go to a coffee shop and talk, we'd do something with them, go to a football game or whatever. Another important thing was that they had to set up appointments with us. We weren't going to, they had to take that responsibility.
Oh, I like that.
They have a schedule, we had a schedule. So they had to set up and maintain appointments. And I think that was a good responsibility exercise for them.
Taking initiative, caring, owning it.
Exactly. And it goes to motivation, it goes to purpose.
Yeah.
And at the end of that result, we had a little bit of a celebration. And we'd meet at a restaurant or somebody's house or whatever. And we'd prepare a little sort of a plaque or a calligraphy kind of a thing to give them with their purpose statement stated. And that was kind of the goal of the whole process, for them to come up with a purpose statement for themselves. And we'd talk about things. Who do you want to be? What kind of a contribution do you want to make with your life? What things are fearful? What are scary? What do you want to accomplish? And I don't remember all the questions, certainly, but it was those kind of questions. And that was that exercise kind of moved them towards their own purpose statement. And at the end of that, we would, like I say, provide a little plaque or something with their purpose statement on it. And they would stand up then and ask the family to hold them accountable for their performing as their purpose statement suggested. And so it was kind of a meaningful thing. There was a few tears once in a while, because
I'm sure.
it was a really fun thing for us to get acquainted with our grandkids at that level and see them maturing and creating some purpose in their life. And by the way, talk about purpose statement in our business and purpose statement with our grandkids. In fact, every individual could benefit from purpose statement. And your purpose may change from time to time, but we all need to have a purpose. In fact, a big part of purpose is relationships. If you and I don't have much of a relationship, not much going to happen here. If we have a good relationship, maybe some things can happen and we can have fun enjoying each other. So we're all in the relationship business. And relationships begin out of respect. And if there's respect, there's a possibility of relationships. If there's a relationship, there's a possibility of influence. So your deal. And if there's influence, there comes with that a responsibility. If you're influencing me, Andrea, you have a responsibility to give me good stuff. If you're influencing me, yeah, there's a responsibility. Yeah, you got to take care of me and give me good stuff, not bad stuff.
I think that there are a lot of younger people who are struggling to find that purpose. I think there could be people of any age that are struggling to find purpose. I mean, when you make any kind of transition in your life and it isn't clear what your next step is, or isn't clear what your next set of next purpose is, it is really difficult to find that and to step into it. And I know a lot of people, when they retire, feel lost.
Yep.
And have that sense of loss. What are your thoughts on that in particular?
Well, your purpose may, in specifics, may change. Your purpose in general maybe would not. But every organization, every person needs to develop a culture that they're comfortable with, and they need to depend on. You probably need to get some input from people you trust. And how do you think I'm doing? How can I do better? Whatever. But I think having people you trust that you can visit with and discuss, I don't like small talk. I think a lot of people don't like small talk. In fact, I like small companies, small cities, small churches, small groups. And the bigger groups or companies or churches or whatever schools get, it seems like sometimes they get more stupid. So, and I think a big part of that is because communication dwindles, the larger the package, the larger population might be. So I just think it's important to have an idea of who you are, but even more important is who you are becoming, knowing your own brand. What do you stand for?
Mm.
What do you want people to think when they hear your name? And if you've set your brand and you feel really comfortable with that, well, you need to measure how you're doing. Like with our company, served 5 stakeholder groups, we would actually have somebody go out and visit vendors, for instance, and say, how are we doing with you guys? Or we'd go talk to the mayor or the police chief of the city. How are we doing with you guys? So anything not measured generally doesn't get moved forward very far, very often.
Mm.
So I think it's, like I say, very important who you are, but even more important, who you're becoming. And most of us are influenced by the 5 people that we spend the most time with and the books that we read. So be careful, choose carefully those that you're spending much time with, because they are your biggest influence.
In many ways, you're a mentor to pretty much anyone that you come in contact with, because you do skip over the small talk like you're talking about. You kind of, I can relate, just so you know. I'm not
Okay,
very
good.
good at the small talk.
Yep.
So I guess I was wondering, have you always had this tendency to want to encourage and mentor others? What do you think that comes from? Do you think why do you think it's important to you?
It has been. I don't think I've done it particularly well, although since we sold the company and started this little organization here, which we're really having fun with, that's all we try to do is just to be an encourager. And I work with a lady that I've worked with for a long, long time. She knows how I think, and she knows how I ought to think. So having some input that uh, understands you, I think, is really, really important. And that goes to minimal small talk.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a big part of what we are, and honestly, that's probably too big of a part from what normally is our norm, who we're with and what we're saying. But I, in a lot of relationships, particularly new ones, I start to ask them two questions. Ask them, what is the biggest surprise the last year? And then I would ask them, what's your biggest concern moving forward? And if I get honest answers to those two items, I've got a really good perspective into what kind of a person this is and might become. So I think asking questions is an easy way, and I don't think it's offensive to anybody. Hopefully, it comes across as, I'm interested in you. I'd like to know you a little better. And often they answer the questions and they say, okay, what's yours? They ask me. So that's an opportunity too to return a conversation to something of value and that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my two favorite questions. The idea is to get them talking a little bit about what's meaningful to them.
I love it. I love those questions. You and Marlis started this company, Legacy Purpose, really quickly after the sale of Allmand Brothers. And so I'm wondering, how at what point did you know that you wanted to do this in particular? Or did you flounder for any amount of time?
Well, I still flounder regularly, but um, yeah, I think I knew I knew what I liked to do and trying to figure out a way to do it. And so we kind of started this little deal, not knowing what was up. But the further we got in, the things that we discovered that maybe could be helpful to somebody was really good. And uh, the lady that I work with full time here now is a lady that actually worked for our family business, I think in 2008 or something. And just really enjoyed and appreciated her. And then when we started this deal, it wasn't long till I figured out, okay, I'm not sure I like accounting and documenting and office kind of stuff. And this lady does that extremely well. And when she came on board full time with us, I suppose it was 9 or 10 years ago now, that really allowed me to have time to think. And she was an encourager to me and still is. So it's really important that we all have encouragers in our life. And one of the best way to have encourager is to be an encourager.
Hmm. Now
But
that's
we
let's pause on that for just a
Okay.
second.
Okay.
One of the best ways to get an encourager, to have an encourager, is to be an encourager. Can you expand on that?
Exactly. Yeah, it goes back to me. It goes back to relationships. Um, Again, if there's no relationship, there's very little is going to happen. If there is a relationship, why there can be some fun and some good things might happen. So being encourager, and like I say, sometimes it's just a smile. Just to let people know you're concerned and ask a couple of questions or whatever. And before long, maybe they're engaged. And maybe they come back, like I mentioned earlier, with a question or two for you. And before you know it, we're having a conversation of some value. So, and I'm not sure I'm going directly answering your question, but it's really important to respond to encouragement. I mean, somebody responds to your encouragement, it blesses your heart, you know?
It encourages more encouragement.
Exactly.
It furthers
Exactly.
the goal.
It,
Yeah.
it multiplies.
Yeah.
And I think whatever you get out there maybe kind of multiplies. You may as well put some stuff out there that's fun and meaningful, certainly to you and hopefully to others as well.
I think that's really important because I, there are times I think when, you really want a friend or you really want an encourager, and the advice to then be of the friend that you're wanting to have, the encourager that you're wanting to have is
Yep.
really important, because I do think that you're right. It does. First of all, I think that the desire for that might even say something about your purpose.
That's a good point. Absolutely.
If you're wanting that out of something else,
Absolutely.
it might just be an indication that that's what you're supposed to be.
Absolutely. I like it. Good job, Andrea. I might mention one other thing kind of along this role. If I was interviewing a new potential employee, I never did like the description, the term job description. To me, a job kind of sounds like take out the trash, mow the yard. And rather than that, I like to talk about a role description, ROLE. In fact, if I was interviewing somebody as a potential employee, I would want them to feel like, and I would ask if they were interested in playing a role in helping this company become who we want to become. And oh, by the way, here's our purpose statement. Is this something you would be interested in helping? This is the company we want to become. Can you help us do that? And to me, it was always a compliment rather than come, well, some of these widgets worth. Come play a role in helping us become something bigger than any one of us are. I think the role description is a really good perspective, particularly compared to a job description, in my view.
Mm.
It, to me, it's a compliment to have somebody come play a role
Mm.
in helping you and I become something, or our company becoming more than it could otherwise.
It really speaks to the need to matter.
Awesome. In fact, that brings up another subject that I'm appreciative of. They did a Johnny Cash movie decades ago now, I suppose, but uh, June Carter Cash, I don't remember who played her role. I used to know that right away.
Is this Reese Witherspoon or is this
Yes, yes,
before
yes,
that?
yes. Oh, you're good. Yeah, it's Reese Witherspoon played June Carter Cash. And I remember one of the lines in that I thought was just powerful. At one point, she said, I just want to matter. And that just blows me. I got goosebumps right now telling you about that. I just think that is such a powerful statement. If we could have that attitude, we just want to matter. And it goes to purpose, it goes to spirit, it goes to everything. It goes to value, certainly. It goes to making this a better place. I don't know. I just really love that simple little 3 or 4 word statement. I just want to matter.
Mm.
We all need to want to matter. And we all can matter.
sometimes I think it can be hard to let go of your own sense of responsibility and rightness. Like, I know what the right path is, I know what we should do. But it's in the letting go of that a little bit and letting somebody else come in to make a decision or to have input and to sway a decision, even where they
Mhm.
really do feel like they matter. And they do. It's hard to let go of that, though, when you're the leader.
Well, they matter if they sit there with a frown on their face and never say a word.
Sure, they can have a negative
That's,
impact too.
yeah, that matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we all have power, whether we recognize it or not. Like I say, the guy that sits there with a frown on his face has power. He can influence that group or that person.
Hmm.
So be careful how you use that power. You
How
have
do you
more power. You have more power than you suspect.
love that? How do you convey that, or how did you, or did you? But how do you think you convey that when you're a business leader? How do you help people understand how much they matter?
Well, make sure you take them seriously. What are their concerns? How could we do this better? Pay attention to them. Take time. I used to like to walk the floor of our business and just I knew a lot of the people's first names. Certainly most of them early on. But if you know their name, that matters, and it suggests that they matter to you. I think that's the spirit anyway. To get at what you're talking about, Andrea. If people need to know you matter to them, and everybody responds to that. Some of them may not believe it, but your life and your actions should confirm that you think they matter.
Most business leaders recognize that culture matters, but I think a lot of people really struggle to create a culture that's both positive and productive. What do you think are some things that you and your company did to really create the culture that you wanted?
Well, one of the things we did, uh, we would choose people that were either in sort of a management role or potentially might be. And I'd go meet with them, remember if it was weekly or bi-weekly, and we'd go through a little book called Leadership is an Art. We do with potential managers and managers like we did with our grandkids. We'd go through a book with them, and they needed to come with a couple of questions and a couple of responses to those. And I got a letter back from a former employee. I think it was just like 2 or 3 years ago, remembering what that meant to them going through the book in a small group like that. In fact, he was in a position now where he was doing that in the company he worked. So I thought that was really fun. But again, it's an expression of you thinking those people matter.
Yeah.
They have value. And I think anything you can do that would indicate, like I say, it can be only a smile. But people need to know that they matter to you. I think that's a huge perspective. And I think it's relatively easy to develop that in a company, in a small group, in a family. People need to know that they matter to you.
Hmm. Your business was a family business. What advice do you have for people who are working with family? Do you have any thoughts on that you want to share?
Yeah, I go back to the relationship idea. Relationships come from respect. If you don't respect one another, there's not much hope of enjoying working together. Respect is a huge one of my favorite words from my dad. And he started out talking about I was learning to saw with a hacksaw. I mean, that's pretty menial, but he taught me to respect that piece of equipment. There were times I had to change the blade in it, and I couldn't be rough with it. I had to be smooth and continuous. But respect is a huge part of any relationship. In fact, like I say, I think there's hardly any relationship without respect. Even the people you don't agree with, you could have respect for, and vice versa. And if you have respect for those that you don't agree with, there's a possibility of relationship, there's a possibility of influence. And so I think respect is, there's really power in respect. I just think working with family adds another dimension of relationship. And it may be harder in some ways or more involved in some ways, certainly. But again, it all, in my view, comes down to respect.
In your book, you talk about that business is a noble venture.
Yeah.
What do you see as the benefits of business
Well,
in that way?
it does so many good things. Creates jobs for people. Creates purpose for people. Business or commerce is what happens between countries that are friendly. It's a relationship building tool. There's so many good things, and I think I list probably 8 or 10 ideas on that in the book. That's what funds our roads and our highways and our communities, our sewers and whatever. Anything that's tax-based because there's a business somewhere creating jobs that creates tax money. So there's just no end to the value of having a business. It's team building. It's just really fun when it works well. And there's opportunity. Again, I keep going back to respect, but I think that's huge. Respect, responsibility, influence, so on.
And purpose.
And purpose, yeah. And all of that that we have discussed really goes to purpose.
Yeah. So, Roger, I'm wondering, I've got a couple more questions for you that I like to ask people. One of them is, when did you first feel like you had a sense of your own, not necessarily purpose, but a sense of your own personal agency that you did matter, that you could make a difference? When do you think you first realized that?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know, but I can't remember a time when I didn't feel like my parents thought I had value. And I think that's recognizing that we have value is huge.
We talked a lot about mentorship. That's a topic that obviously you care so much about. Is there anything else that you would say that you had mentors that did things for you that you wanted to do for others?
Yeah, I'd say there've been 10 of those. Certainly my dad. And I can learn something from everybody, from anybody. Not always good, but that's where you learn, is working with people. And to me, the smaller the group, the more profound the relationship can be. But that relationship needs to continue to expand and continue to be developed and blessed, if that's a way to think about it. No, it's just been a real joy in a lot of ways for me to enjoy people. I think that's a big part of it. You need to learn how to enjoy and respect people. So
I love that sentiment. Like, it's not just about the thing that you do. It's about actually enjoying the people. I remember something that my grandparents really taught me, and I wrote a blog about this probably 10, 12 years ago or something, but it was this idea of like my grandparents' eyes would light up whenever they saw me. And then I realized, and that made me feel so special. And then I realized that my
Sure.
grandparents' eyes would light up whenever they saw my other cousins. And then I realized I went to their church with them and I saw their eyes light up when they would see just about anybody. And I thought, oh my goodness, they delight in people. And that matters so much.
Amen. Yeah, that's really good, Andrea. Yeah, you need people to matter in your view, and that in response, I think you can matter to them. But no, I love your talking about communicating with your eyes. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That is huge.
How can people connect with Legacy Purpose or find your book?
Well, we're kind of not out there really.
And that's
Uh,
okay too.
yeah. Um, our website is Legacy Purpose LLC.com. That would be a place to connect.
If you could, this is my last question for you. If you could offer one last challenge to somebody who really would like to help shape the future, what would that challenge be?
Well, I'd say love people. And I guess could elaborate on that certainly. If there's no love or respect people, and it kind of goes back to relationship. We're all in the relationship business, and that's how we love people, by allowing yourself to be of value to them and recognizing their value to you. And that's what Jesus says. You just got to love people. And you love people because he did. And certainly he was the greatest lover of mankind ever. I mean, not many of us know a person that died to meet us. You might know somebody that said they were dying to meet you, but they really didn't. Jesus is the one. So I mean, there's certainly power in his message, and probably the greatest message ever.
Hmm. Roger, thank you so much for taking time to meet with us today. Be a voice
Well,
of influence.
you're welcome, Andrea. I appreciate you, and I wish we had the time to visit a little bit more on a more regular basis
Well,
because
it's
I
certainly
appreciate
fun.
it. How you think.